Welcome, Climate Viewers. This is Jim Lee from ClimateViewer News at ClimateViewer.com and ClimateViewer.substack.com. Israel's stealth geoengineering project. Now, I'm one of those people that if it's on the internet, if a gnat farts on the internet, I can find it. And this one's going to be a little bit of a tough one because it's stealth. And there's a good reason it's stealth, and we need to know why it's stealth. In order to understand that, we need to do a little bit of history. So that's kind of the purpose of explaining how we got here. Why are geoengineers now being so secretive, being so spooky, naming their project Satan, and getting really mad when somebody leaks it to the press? All that and more right after this. If you're watching this somewhere else, if you've somebody's downloaded my video, because them things happen, please come over to youtube.com/@ClimateViewer and hit that subscribe button. Slowly growing, always shadow banned, but always better. And if you can support the channel by joining my Substack as a paid subscriber, or donating, or just simply subscribing and sharing on my social medias. You can find all that at connect.climateviewer.com, with the exception of my Telegram. I have been really trying to update my website, and I need to put the subscription for the newsletter on climateviewer.com, which I've already combined weathermodificationhistory.com and climateviewer.com together, and I'm working on ClimateViewer 3D, the maps, because I miss making maps. It's driving me freaking crazy. There's so many things that I want to map out, so I'm trying to work that in. But all that and more, big changes coming to the website when I can get to it. Life's a bee. So to the main story over here on my climateviewer.substack.com. Israel's geoengineering project, stealth geoengineering project. Now, people don't really understand what I mean by stealth or rogue. So at one point, there was this term rogue geoengineering. And basically it meant you were like, screw the rules, screw the bans, screw everything that are the international norms set by the technocrats at the United Nations. I'm just gonna do my own damn thing. And we've really come a long way since back in 2010 the Convention for Biological Diversity had a moratorium on outdoor experiments, and they suggested the precautionary method and principles, and they said, oh, we shouldn't do any outdoor experiment. This is what our governments are saying around the world. We shouldn't do outdoor experiments until there's proper scientific testing and public notification and all public, engagement. All of that's out the window. They have, really decided, screw that. Now, the reason why is pretty simple. So I put it to you like this. The taboo of outdoor experimentation with sunlight blocking technologies are over. Driven by the fear of global warming and, in some cases, the possibility of lucrative startup company, scientists are no longer concerned with public acceptance, oversight, or governance issues. 2024's motto, just do it. How do we get here, and what's Dr. Evil planning to experiment with this year? Let's explore the insanity of geoengineering experiments and their progress towards the dark side. Get it? Because they're blocking the sun. Dark side. Waka waka. Anyway, so first up, I do mention, if you guys aren't familiar with it, if you're new to any of this, if you're new to the channel, if you have not seen it, please check out the Weather Modification History timeline and the newspaper vault. 1850 to present. So much to learn there. You could spend the rest of your life reading just the newspaper articles in the newspaper vault and probably not finish them. I've read most of them. Anyway, so back in 2010, there was this thing called SPICE. And I'm not talking about Dune, the movie, which I love, by the way. The stratospheric particle injection for climate engineering project. They were attempting to do it in the UK, and basically it was shut down by the ETC group. In response to reports that British scientists are about to test hardware needed to put sulfur particles into the stratosphere for climate technofix, International Technology Watchdog ETC Group is calling on the UK government to halt the controversial test with respect to UN processes underway to discuss these issues. So, ETC Group 1, Geoengineers 0. And this is what their project would entail. They were going to have a boat pulling a balloon and spraying chemicals directly into the stratosphere to, block sunlight and test how effective that was. But, got shut down. So then this was a much lesser known project. It was called the Eastern Pacific Emitted Aerosol Cloud Experiment. This is 2011. This marine cloud brightening project was carried out without ever identifying itself as a solar radiation management geoengineering experiment, and thus nobody noticed, well, except myself and a few nerds who really follow this stuff. Now, a little bit of backstory on this. I actually went to, because I was still a member of, Ken Caldera and Andrew Lockley's geoengineering group on Google. I went to the forum and I said, E-Piece is a geoengineering experiment. And a whole bunch of these geoengineering scientists are like, no, it wasn't. And I'm like, yes, it was. And they were like, no, you don't know what you're talking about. Then a couple years later, in peer-reviewed journal studies, they're going, yeah, that kind of was a geoengineering experiment. But basically, they had this the RV Point Sur boat, and you can see these poor dudes down here in the bottom literally by these smoke generators. So what they were doing was they were trying to create artificial ship tracks by pumping chemicals into clouds that would whiten the sky. This is what's called marine cloud brightening, and there's two major trains of thought on this. Marine cloud brightening usually according to the original paperwork, and I could show you guys this real quick, because why not? If you click right here on marine cloud brightening, what you're going to do is you're going to go over to the weather modification history timeline, and you'll see we're way back in 1990 now, because the Silver Lining Project, which morphed into the Marine Cloud Brightening Project, which also includes silverlining.ngo. That's the website, silverlining.ngo. They basically have been at this for a very long time. Research currently undertaken by Manchester University, Leeds University, NCAR, Pacific Northwest National Labs, Purdue University, University of Washington, and the University of Edinburgh. And this idea was cooked up by John Latham and Stephen Salter. And the idea was this is a schematic of what, the boat might look like. Here's an even really detailed one by Dr. Stephen Salter, who was kind enough to actually open his FTP server and let me just download all his research. I mean, you got to give it to the guy. Pretty open source. But the idea was to suck seawater and spray it into the clouds. So the idea is simply to spray salt into the clouds. And here's anti-global warming clouds, BBC Science. I got a couple of videos in here also. This is from the Weather Modification Conference, where John Latham, 1990, Stephen Salter, 2008, and all of that. Silver Lining Project, aerosol cloud precipitation. That's for the nerds. Like, if you really want to get nerdy and you want to get into the backstory of how marine cloud brightening came to be a thing, click that link. Let's just put it that way. So, I throw little nuggets in here, little Easter eggs, for people who actually want to know. And the same is true with, like, if you click the thing for e-piece, you're going to go over to the Weather Mod history timeline, and you can see like all of the actual stuff that they were doing. Oil smoke generator, giant salt dispenser, those are the particle generators, what their results were on different days, and, everything that was involved, like the Serpa's Twin Otter plane up there smelling, the chemicals, the GOES A-train of satellites measuring how much sunlight was blocked by this. So this was a geoengineering experiment. They didn't want to admit it at the time, but they got away with it. Point being, result cloaked, nobody knew about it. Okay? So that moves on to the first big shaming event. The Haida Salmon Restoration Project, also known as ocean iron fertilization. So Russ George becomes known as the first rogue geoengineer by dumping iron particles in the ocean, known as ocean iron fertilization. The so-called Haida Salmon Restoration Corporation claims it dumped 100 tons of iron particles into the Haida eddy of the Northeast Pacific Ocean to produce. Thank you for subscribing. Come together, Idaho. Idaho, Udaho, Weedaho. Idaho, big time cloud seeding. If you pay your power company out there, your power company's cloud seeding. To produce an artificial plankton bloom, even though the practice is prohibited globally, agreed moratorium in Canadian law. So what do we have here? This dump is a blatant violation of the global moratoria established by the UN's Convention for Biological Diversity, which I already mentioned, and the International Maritime Organization, says ETC Group's Jim Thomas. And I made a nice little graphic combining two together. This is an actual satellite shot of the plankton bloom that was caused by iron fertilization. And this is them dumping big bags of, I'm assuming it's like iron oxide, it's like rust, but it's bags of iron, and you can see a red tinge to the trail here. So this is an actual photo of that. These things are not easy to come by. Let's just put it that way. So ocean iron fertilization, I actually reached out to Russ George via Twitter, and after watching the movie Seaspiracy, it's like conspiracy, but SEA. I watched the documentary Seaspiracy about international fishing and how they're basically robbing, Pacific Island nations of all their fish to the point where they can't even catch fish. Now, Russ George was basically saying, look, I'm doing this because all these, globalist, fishing companies have stolen all of the fish from around our island, and I want plankton to grow, which will bring the fish back, and that's why I'm doing this. But meanwhile, everybody said, hey, bro, you're doing ocean iron fertilization. That is a geoengineering technique. You are now Russ George, rogue geoengineer. In other words, you're a bad boy. You didn't follow the rules. You didn't follow the ban on geoengineering from the United Nations. Shame on you. So at the end of the day, result, public shaming by the ETC group. No fines. Nobody ever gets fined over any of this stuff. That's why I've always said the United Nations is useless. Kind of like what Dave Chappelle said. The United Nations doesn't like what I'm doing. Well, how about you sanction me? Sanction me with your army. Oh, wait, you don't have an army. I guess you better shut the up. And that's the way it goes. So next up, we have David Keith. And David Keith has been trying since 2018 to launch his Strato cruiser. David Keith's Stratospheric Controlled Perturbation Experiment, SCOPEX, attempted to launch their balloon in Tucson, Arizona, and And at the time when he did it, you know, like in 2018, yeah, I reached out to him directly and, you know, put videos out. You can go back on my channel and look. And I said, you know, look, I'm going to send people to the airport down in Arizona, and your balloon is never going to get off the ground. Well, it didn't. So he swore that, you know, all right, well, we took a hit in Arizona, but we're going to keep trying. Maybe next year, we'll try it somewhere else. So they tried to do it from Kiruna, Sweden. Now, Kiruna, Sweden's a rocket range, which also has like LiDARs, laser beams, and all that stuff. So it's also involved with the Tromsø ionospheric heater. Won't get into all that, but basically it's an atmospheric, you know, sounding rocket slash laser range. So he thought that would be a great place to do it. Well, again, he failed. David Keith's funded by Harvard International Funds and likely Harvard's Solar Geoengineering Program, which has raised money for Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates, the Hewlett Foundation, the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation, and many other philanthropists. And then, like I said, they didn't want to admit that E-Piece was a geoengineering experiment, but what do they say right here? Scopex follows in the wake of several other solar geoengineering collaborations that have failed to pick up momentum, such as the 2011 E-Piece experiment. Bruh. Right 99.7% of the time. Love it or hate it, I'm always right. I'm always right, bruh. Result shut down by the ETC group, but still trying. So the ETC group actually did a hands-off Mother Earth manifesto, a permanent ban on geoengineering. 110 civil society organizations and popular movements denounce geoengineering and demand immediate stop to all open-air experiments. So ETC group went real hard. And, you know, Jim Thomas, Sylvia Ribeiro, Pat Mooney, I've spoken with these people many times. Back when they had their World of Geoengineering map, I turned it into a Google Fusion table and then into Google Earth KML file. So I actually took their, you know, JPEG picture of geoengineering experiments and turned it into a spreadsheet / map. And of course now, today, you can check out the fruition of all of that at map.geoengineeringmonitor.org. And they actually, ETC Group runs geoengineeringmonitor.org to this day. I suggest if you want to keep up with the only people who have stopped geoengineering projects in the past, sign up for their newsletter. Tell them Jim Lee from ClimateViewer sent you. But yes, they did this hands-off Mother Earth manifesto. They put it out at all of the international meetings, and they directly lobbied Sweden. And guess what? David Keith's poor little balloon never made it off the ground again. So what are we at now? Let's see. ETC Group 3, Geoengineers 0. So there's a pattern forming here, and this pattern is not good for the geoengineers because they just want to be able to do whatever the hell they want, and they're tired of getting their butts kicked by ETC Group and people who just clearly don't want geoengineering. You know, so that's why they've moved into the new phase. For those who don't know what the Stratocruiser looks like, this is David Keith's Scopex project. This Stratocruiser actually borrows its name from an earlier Bill Gates intellectual ventures program called the Strato Shield. And it was basically very similar to the Spice project, where they were going to do a geoengineering hose to the sky, where they literally pump sulfur from the ground up into space. Video on the Strato Shield on my ClimateViewer YouTube channel. You can go back and look at that. So 2020 to present, the Great Barrier Reef Restoration Project. again, a marine cloud brightening project, and it's been ongoing since 2020, and they have no intents of stopping. Basically, you know, this research known as marine cloud brightening is led by Southern Cross University as a part of a $64.55 million or 100 million Australian dollars reef restoration and adaptation program. The program is funded by a partnership between the Australian government's Reef Trust and the Great Barrier Reef Foundation, and includes conservation organizations and several academic institutions. This is what Stephen Salter and John Latham's Silver Lining Project turned into. This is the modern version, and you see right here, Emmy Controls, Southern Cross University, and these are basically jet engines. I mean, they're pretty much jet engines that suck up seawater and then spray it into the clouds. So again, it's about salting the clouds to make them whiter to reflect sunlight. So they're, in some cases, they're creating artificial clouds over the Great Barrier Reef to reflect sunlight. And, you know, I did a video on this back when it happened. I believe this video is like 2 or 3 years old now. Geoengineering the Great Barrier Reef. So if you want to learn more about that, watch the video. I'm not going to play it for you now. But this goes to the whole point of, you know, no longer asking permission. Make sunsets, making rogue geoengineering cool again. All the puns, they're making it cool again with their cooling credits. Now these guys, they literally just don't give a F. All right. Like they are just, you could sign up for their newsletter and they brag about how much money they got on hand, how many balloons they're releasing. They just don't care. What does it look like? It's real high technology, guys. I mean, you should see this. That's Andrew Song literally pumping, you know, like he's collected sulfur in a bag and now he's squeezing it with this hose into a balloon that he's going to go throw in the air. Okay. Like that's the high technology we're talking about over with Make Sunsets. But the main point I want to make about Make Sunsets, after getting banned, geoengineering banned in Mexico, read all about it on ClimateViewer, the weather modification history timeline. It's somewhere in here. Mexico bans Make Sunset rogue geoengineering. It happened. It's a whole ass thing. Back to where we were. Based on the lack of liability, accountability, or even public shaming, Make Sunsets has emboldened the solar geoengineering community. Luke and Andrew have really opened Pandora's box as geoengineering goes corporate and non-profit, and I put in quotes, for profit. So we've gone from, you know, shaming a dude for dumping iron in the ocean, for rogue geoengineering and breaking all the UN regulations and, oh, how dare you, to literally like 2 dudes make a startup company out in, I believe they're from Wyoming, but they're doing this out in California, and nothing. Crickets. I mean, in fairness, Kelly Wassman from silverlining.ngo, she did shame them some in an article I read somewhere. They're like, what they're doing is not cool. But at the end of the day, she's just like, but you know, we're going to do the exact same thing. But those guys over there, they're the problem. We're based in universities and, you know, we're part of the, you know, illuminated group of individuals. These 2 yahoos are literally just out there making bucks, you know, throwing balloons in the air. We're better than them. Promise. But they really set the bar, because now, you know, if these 2 fools can go out and just say, hey, we're geoengineering, fill out a NOAA form 17-4 and put on it that we're going to geoengineer from 2022 to 2222, 200 years. These dudes aren't even going to be alive for 200 years. They literally wrote on the paper. I'll show it to you. It's hilarious. I mean, it's hilarious if it weren't so damn sad at the same time. But yeah, that's what they actually wrote. They wrote this. My God, this is how serious this is. This is an initial report on weather modification activities. It's required under Public Law 92205. It's the Weather Modification Reporting Act of 1972. So they actually filled it out. Project or activity designation, if any. Cooling Earth. Okay. Purpose of the project: reduce average global temperature. How long are you going to do it? From 2/12/2023 to 3/23/2223. I was close. It's 200 damn years. Okay. That's just crazy. But I mean, aside from the fact that it looks like a middle schooler wrote this, how could you possibly take this seriously? Make Sunsets Incorporated, Luke Eisman. There's his phone number. Yes, it works. We called it on the air the other day. We are deploying sulfur dioxide, calcium carbonate, and other proprietary compounds into the stratosphere to offset global warming. Our deployments will occur via balloons and other aircraft. Deployment rates will vary, peaking at no more than 100 megatons in total per year. Initial flights will occur with as little as 1 milligram per flight. But bro literally said 200 years, and we're going to use 100 freaking megatons. I find that a little bit ironic and scary, all at the same time. But, I've said that already. Where were we? So they kind of set the bar, for what's to be expected from the geoengineering world. And up to this point, I think that a lot of them were like, scared of breaking the norms until Andrew Lockley, the same guy who banned me from Ken Caldera and Andrew Lockley's geoengineering group for saying that Ken Caldera should be tarred and feathered in response to a public relations, let's just put it this way. They were asking people, do you think geoengineering is a good idea? And 85% of respondents said no. And then Ken Caldera said, well, I believe that the framing of the questions were incorrect. So if you were to ask those questions in a different way, you might have got a better response. And at that point, I said to Ken Caldera, I said, well, dude, you just went from, unbiased scientist to lobbyist. And just as a reminder, I'll be there with the tar and feathers whenever everybody figures out what you're up to. Anyway, the same Andrew Lockley who kicked me for being so, controversial, for threatening Ken Caldera, this is what he had to say whenever he did his project, Satan in Secret. So last year, Andrew Lockley launched a secret solar geoengineering deployment dubbed Satan, Stratospheric Aerosol Transport and Nucleation. When the news was leaked to the press, he was livid. Leakers be damned, he wrote in an email to MIT Technology Review. I've tried to follow the straight and narrow path and wait for judgment day of peer review, but it appears a colleague has been led astray by diabolical temptation. There's a special place in hell for those who leak their colleagues' work, tormented by ever-burning sulfur. Now, Andrew, I didn't ever say anything about people burning in hell, but bro, that's way over tar and feathers. So for you to be such a freaking snowflake and get triggered over me quoting something that you guys said at the Asilomar conference, which you should have got the reference. I know you got the reference. It was a slight little underhand jab. I admit that. But bro, for you to be saying that, your secret program got leaked to the press and those people should burn in hell and be tormented by ever burning sulfur while at the same time secretly trying to spray sulfur into the stratosphere, which David Keith and everybody has admitted will kill many tens of thousands of people, if not millions. You have a special type of hubris. You are special. You're the best kind of snowflake, like completely hypocritical, completely asinine. But it's the way things are going. So we've gone from rogue geoengineering to just in your face geoengineering to, damn it, it's for the coral reefs, the Great Barrier Reef, and we all know how important that is. So let's marine cloud Brighton, to Satan. And even the geoengineers in his group were like, really, you named it freaking Satan? I mean, this is bad publicity. But that's where it gets even, weirder. Now that we've come to this point where they just feel like we're going to go ahead and geoengineer, and we're not going to tell anybody until we get the results. And then when we get the results, we might tell somebody. And that's where Israel's Stardust Solutions comes into play. So now we enter the age of stealth geoengineering, similar to Andrew Lockley's Satan project. After years of promising transparency, following the precautionary method, and honoring the CBD moratorium on outdoor experimentation, the geoengineering community has gone from shaming rogue geoengineering to promoting stealth geoengineering. Now, I first heard about this in this Wall Street Journal article down here, but I did some digging. And it was actually mentioned first in 2023 in this Israeli tech website. So let me close other tabs real quick. Close other tabs, open this up, and you see it's calistech.com. Anyway, it's Israeli. I looked it up. I did the about page and all that. By Shani Ashkenazi. This was dated 2023. And in it, they refer to them as Stardust Labs. So, of course, me being just the curious person, I did, all right, well, let's, look up Stardust Labs. And what did I come across? I came across this. Stardust Labs works on the cutting edge to create worlds and experiences for games like Minecraft, Java, and Bedrock Edition. I was like, okay, clearly Stardust Labs is a Minecraft game studio. Maybe there's some other stuff here. No, it's Minecraft. Okay, maybe they just picked a bad thing. So, everything I looked at on here, I went over to LinkedIn. I'm like, Stardust Labs. Oh no, it's the same. Decentralized finance. Okay, so everybody's got the name Stardust Labs. Clearly, that's not going to give me anything. So what about this Professor Eli Waxman and Yana Yedveb? So I did a little digging into them. And of course, Professor Eli Waxman, he's got a website. So I was able to find him very easily. That's him right there, this guy. So he's part of Stardust. And Dr. Yanni, we'll get to him in a second. So what are these guys planning on doing? I'm going to skip this and we're going to go right to the nuts and butts of this. Yedveb said Stardust has raised $15 million from 2 investors and has conducted low-level aerial tests using white smoke to simulate the particles' path in the atmosphere. After the company completes indoor safety testing, it intends to conduct a limited outdoor test of the dispersion technology, monitoring devices, and particles in the next few months. Now, this was written in the Wall Street Journal on February 14th, 2024, and they refer to it as Stardust Solutions. And it says that their Stardust Solutions has begun testing a system to disperse a cloud of tiny reflective particles at about 60,000 feet in the altitude, reflecting sunlight away from the Earth to cool the atmosphere in a concept known as solar radiation management. Now, of course, I'm looking at this and I was like, let me try to find anything on this. But I did find an address. Even though Stardust Labs happens to be a Minecraft company, I did find this, and guess what? It is in Ra'anana, Israel. So, got your address. But it's still listed as Stardust Labs Ltd. Very, very little information on this group. And I'm going, why is that? And then I had, the aha moment, where I looked him up on LinkedIn, and this is what I came up with. So let's go over here to LinkedIn. And you see, this is the guy, Yanai Yedveb, and it says Stealth Startup, Harvard University. Now that tells me two things. Harvard University is the same people that are involved in David Key's ScopeX project. It's called the Harvard Solar Geoengineering Research Program. So David Key's a part of the Harvard Solar Geoengineering group. This guy's from Harvard University. He's got a stealth startup. He doesn't have Stardust Solutions or Stardust Ltd, labs listed on his profile. What does he have listed on his profile? He has listed CEO and co-founder, Stealth Startup, full-time, September 2022 to present, Central District, Israel. Quit his last job August 22nd, 2022 as Chief Technology Officer at Aleph 8. Used to work for the Israeli Atomic Energy Commission and the Nuclear Research Center in Negev. So the point is, what the hell is a stealth startup? And it explains everything. A stealth startup is a startup company that operates in stealth mode that avoids public attention. This may be done to hide information from competitors or as a part of a marketing strategy to manage public image. The phenomenon is well known in the venture capital community. Normally, a company would only operate in stealth mode for the first couple of years. As investors have to disclose funding a stealth startup, the names are made public, but often only a general summary description is known about the company. Most entrepreneurs say they are in stealth because they're worried about their competitors stealing their ideas. This can be a risk if you have such a simple idea that just by hearing it, someone can replicate it. So this is where we're at now. We got private companies operating in stealth mode because they want to make money off of it. And this goes back to, I'm thinking of Alan Robach and his 27 reasons why geoengineering might be a bad idea. And one was corporate interests. And here we see already a private company doing stealth geoengineering experiments, doing a little publicity about it because obviously it made it into the Wall Street Journal. By the way, if you want to actually see that, if you go to the Wall Street Journal's website, this is what it looks like. And you see all this red water out here. But anyway, scientists resort to once unthinkable solutions to cool the planet. And of course, then you hit that freaking paywall. So for the benefit of all, I wanted to make sure that everybody could read it. And what did I find right here? I used archive.is. And you can read the whole damn article yourself. But right here, this is where I got the photo for that from. And right here is where they talk about Stardust. So if you want to read the full article, there's an archive.is link. It's right here. It says archive. Click that. Take that, paywall having mother truckers. Anyway, so that's not the only thing they talk about in this article. They talk about crazier things like dumping a whole bunch of, freaking acid, toms into the ocean off the coast of Martha's Vineyard. And they talk about all kinds of things. And we could go on and on and on about all the crazy freaking geoengineering ideas that are out there. But the ones that I'm worried most about are the ones where they dump chemicals in the sky to block the sun, because they will directly lead to the death of many people and a myriad of different, organisms on this planet, whether it be plants, aquatic, anything. Everything on this earth needs sunlight. and throwing off that solar balance by blocking it with chemicals, plus the toxicity of the chemicals chosen, the effects on the atmosphere. All of these things are reasons why geoengineering should not be a thing, should be banned. It's the Oppenheimer argument. Once you build it, you can't put it back in the box and everybody can have it. So now let's worry about China and Russia deciding to geoengineer, and guess what? They could just kill everybody and claim they were doing it to save us from global warming. But anyway you look at it, it's a bad thing. The fact that they're now being even more secretive just shows that they have fear. They now fear the public and what we have to say about this. And they rightly should fear the public, because when you're directly engaged in activities that, though you may think they're beneficial, you recognize they will lead to the deaths of many tens of thousands of people, lowball estimate, then maybe you should just stop. Scientists rarely ask the question, should we? And always ask the question, can we? The moral hazard of geoengineering outweighs any benefits that could possibly come from it. And I maintain that the human race, and they're so worried about this 1.5 degrees Celsius, oh, we're going to go over 1.5 degrees Celsius. Even if we went to 3 degrees of global warming, let's just go out the box. Let's go for the gold. Even if we had 5, 7, 10 degrees Celsius of global warming, the human race will survive. Because guess what? We have technology that we can use to adapt. We can grow our freaking crops indoors, hydroponically. I mean, hell, when I was growing up, I knew a dude who literally grew weed underground in his backyard. No sunlight, big high pressure sodium lights. The point is, we can use technology and we can deal with global warming without dumping chemicals in the sky that are going to kill people. We can figure it out. But global cooling will kill many, many more people. If the mold doesn't get you, if the disease outbreaks don't get you, if the crop devastation doesn't get you, just the climate policies of the World Economic Forum and all of these fools that are behind the IPCC, they'll make sure that you freeze to death. So I'd much rather deal with global warming than global cooling. I'd much rather deal with global warming than geoengineering. Everybody that I've ever spoken to agrees geoengineering, solar geoengineering, stratospheric aerosol injection, solar radiation management occurring in the sky, blocking sunlight, is purely fucking evil. And now you know how we got here and why, and now we can look forward to them trying to keep it a very good secret, which means that it's more incumbent on you guys to help me keep up with these people being secret. So please, if you have any tips, if you hear about anybody I haven't previously mentioned, join the Telegram chat, t.me/ClimateViewer chat. Shoot me an email, jim@climateviewer.com. Text me, 803-450-4305. Somebody texted this to me. I appreciate it. If you wouldn't have texted it to me, and said, basically they texted me somebody's blog post and they're like, is this a real thing? And then I looked through it and I'm like, well, where did they get all this crap from? And then I found the Wall Street Journal article, and then I actually got through the paywall by using archive.is. And then I read about Stardust, and that led to all of this. So if it weren't for that one special person who took some time to go, hey, Jim might want to see this, you wouldn't be hearing about this either. So sharing truly is caring, and I appreciate everybody who's supported me over the years, people who send me, information. I work a 40-hour-a-week job. It sucks. I have a wife that I've been married to for 25 years, a 14-year-old and a 7-year-old daughter, and my 7-year-old's in the other room right now with a 102-degree temperature. So it's tough keeping up with all this, but through your patronage, through people signing up for Substack and Patreon, things like that, I hope to be doing this full time where I can devote, all of my attention to this at least 8 hours a day. Whatever I was doing at the old job, I'll do it here, and we can do it way better. So please continue to support my work, and thank you to everybody who has so far. I love you, mean it. Subscribe to the ClimateViewer.substack.com. It's free. If you want to be a paid subscriber, you're helping out my family. You're helping me come home. But you don't have to. Just simply, subscribing means that you're going to get these latest articles that I'm writing directly in your email inbox. So when I hit submit, you get an email. It's a newsletter, and it's a way for me to easily write things up quickly. All in one. Dirk is still shadow banned from Telegram public groups. Dirk, sorry. So yeah, I've heard that about a lot of people, and I could set my Telegram to a private channel, but then I think that I can't keep a steady, URL. We'll talk about it. DM me like on Telegram about this, and I'll see what I can do, because I would much rather it be a private group, but at the same time I couldn't figure out any way to have a URL that stays the same that I can post everywhere. Maybe it's a good thing that I haven't posted on my website yet. But anyway, yeah, we'll look into that, man. Anyway, so great conversations going on there over there. We've already got 156 or 7 members, and I'm gonna tell you what, for only 157 members, that damn chat be scrolling. Like, I'm in there, can barely get a word in because everybody's having such great conversations, and it's really a no nonsense chat. So this is actually the best chat I've had so far. Quality of content, 98. Very, very good stuff. So please come over and join us. And like I said, sharing is caring. So please share this information, and I guess I will catch you on the next one. And remember, even though they're from Israel and they're doing stealth geoengineering and they don't give a damn about your permission, and what they're doing is dangerous, if you do figure anything out about these people, I'd like to call them and talk to them. But remember, attack ideas, not people. We're better than that. If the video resonates with you, leave me a comment, because I love hearing from y'all. First time here, be sure to subscribe and click the bell. Yeah! Remember, it would be impossible for me to do this without your support, so please join my Patreon or buy me a coffee on PayPal. And always, attack ideas, not people.